Okay, so I'm going to upload this, right? After this, people, I'm out in the yard. I'm going to have to be out there for a few days before I can anything more. Right? I can usually do about 3 days straight, but I've been up since like 5:30, 6 o'clock this morning, so I'm tired. Plus, you know, I've been pretty much on my feet for the last 3-4 days preparing, you know, food for the future. Right? What I want to say, people, is what's going on in our society right now is making me extremely ill. And if it's making me extremely ill, just with the psychological warfare part of it in terms of people losing their basic human rights to be able to walk free in society without being targeted. To be able to walk free in society without being targeted. Right? In the province of British Columbia, Canada, the housing boom is still booming, people. The government is taking tax dollars and they're redirecting it where they want it to go. And they're upholding, boosting up, pushing forward, fueling the underground economy through the housing market and drugs, fentanyl, heroin, those kind of things, right? The sex trade, right? Sierra wasn't out in the streets by coincidence, people. She was manufactured to be there, and when she was of no use anymore, she got caught up in a purge. We're in a purge part now in our society because this is so important, and I only got a minute because the kids are coming back, right? So anyway, as the buildings are going up, nobody in BC, well, I wouldn't say nobody, but very few people can afford to buy these houses. Okay? The people that are buying these houses are being imported into this country from other countries based on their status of wealth. India, for example, it went up to 150 degrees in 2018, 19. Did you hear what I said? 150 degrees Fahrenheit in terms of temperature. A lot of people are coming to Canada from India to get away from the havoc that type of temperature brings to their country. It's not that they don't have money, because first of all, Canada doesn't like to bring in too many people who don't have money. They have their handful of refugees in a charitable sense, but they also make those refugees pay to come here, first of all, in the true sense of a true refugee sitting up in a tent in Darfur with hundreds of thousands baking under the sun. They'll bring in a few of those, but they'll leave the majority of them behind, just so that they can say that they've brought in refugees. On the other spectrum of bringing people into this country, they're bringing in the ones with the wealth. And with the wealth comes the corruption, comes the illegal organ harvesting, comes the facilitation of fentanyl and money laundering through the housing market. And it comes from different races. It's not one particular race in general. Okay? This is what the British Columbia government, the New Democrat Party, is allowing to continue with this housing boom. They're not building it for the people that live here, that were born here. As a matter of fact, they're taking away our human rights. Okay? They've wiped out whole industries in terms of gainful employment for millions of people. And they're doing it on a percentage of 0.0024 out of 5.2 million people who happen to die, namely between the age of 70 up to 90 years old, in care homes. Now, understand, back in the day when the BC Liberal government was in power, what they did is they brought in the privatization of care homes, right, to offload the responsibility of government and those union pensions and superannuation life insurance policies and all these things that suck up the majority of the budget in terms of a provincial budget that really should go towards the people and not the employees. But, you know, so they brought in something like, oh, I don't know how many private care homes, but they sold it to a Chinese company, basically, that had ill reputation, right? You know, but they didn't care. And so a lot of these organizations that are running these care homes aren't technically government care homes. So, you know, this is like backpedaling in terms of, you know, you bring in privatization and it lowers the service for these old people in a lot of ways, right? You bring in overseas workers that can't speak English, that are bigots and racists and are looking to gain their own spot in life in Canada, and you know what, I maybe don't like their job, and you know, right? Look what they did to Uncle John. They made him sit in a diaper all day long. It was my kids and me who were taking him to the bathroom. Tisha took him to the bathroom. ShaMay took him to the bathroom. Marcane took him to the bathroom. I took him to the bathroom. What does that tell you about those care workers in that temporary care ward that Uncle John was being forced to stay in, illegally detained, until such time they could sneak him out in the bowels of a ferry all drugged up with their fucking drug so that they could steal his money? That's still happening, people. The only thing is the government's made it now where you can't witness it. Right? And because a large majority of people are just thinking about money, especially in this time when there's no money to be found, you know, oh, Dad was old, who cares how he died, is, you know, where's his will? Did a video on that. Okay. For the ones that are below a certain income that will never buy these houses, that will never be able to afford these houses as they're being built, or these condos, or these townhomes, let me tell you something. They are not, and I've said this before, people, and it's got to be up in your face, right? If you can't see it now, you'll never see it. These houses out here are not being built for us. They're being built for other people in other countries that have X amount of wealth so that they can migrate over here and repopulate, because their countries are either burning up like India and they've got nowhere to run. And with them, they bring some of them, not all of them, but their corruption in terms of illegal organ harvesting. So we're in a purge right now. Sierra got caught up in a purge, okay? She was targeted from the jail system. They kept her in isolation for a large portion of her last stay in jail. They didn't even give her the money that we sent her, people. They sent it back to me, okay? I got the envelope back with the $60 because they had kept her basically in isolation. She told me that when she came to the house, because she asked me about the money. I said, well, it got returned. Oh, well, I was in isolation. Makes sense. Yeah. And then 4 days after being released from jail, she's dead, with the cops running around telling another person to not say anything, because if he says something, he's going down. Not the cops, but him. Tell me how it's not a purge, people. Right? When you've got 1 million people or more who have lost their jobs basically permanently, because of a few rogue, overzealot, power-mongering psychopaths who have taken their positions in Parliament and have decided to basically destroy those below a certain income level. Okay? We don't need socialism. And if they think they're going to sell us socialism as they're bringing in the upper elite, the middle class upper elite of immigrants from other countries who don't like people like me because I'm below a certain income. My children represent a commodity that a lot of these people can exploit. That's why I show you these big ass houses that are being built one after another, after another, after another, as what? Millions of people are losing their jobs and are being told that they can't go back to work for a year or two. And when they do, they've got to walk on eggshells and glass for the rest of their lives if they don't want to go to jail and be put into isolation and then released and then targeted as if it's a fucking computer game. Because the ones sitting in the houses, they're not really hurting people. If anything, they're participating in some of this gang stalking and the targeting of vulnerable individuals in our community. I have seen, I don't know if it was a movie or if it was an actual computer game where, I think it was a movie, I don't know what it's called, but people sat up in their houses on a block and they targeted one particular house. And they created scenarios where those people in that house literally were murdered, as the people in the other houses on that block participated in that gang stalking and alienation of that family as they sat on their computers and made it happen between themselves as a block. Oh, well, let's just watch hockey on YouTube. Okay, so what? The provincial government's going to start charging you to watch hockey on YouTube as if that compensates with shutting down the whole industry? Right? How are kids supposed to play hockey for the ones that play hockey? Are they like Pac-Man, sitting in front of a computer screen playing hockey like a Pac-Man? Again, what gives these politicians the right to dictate to us for the rest of our lives how we should live, unless, of course, we've got an X amount of money so that we can insulate ourselves in our gated communities? Because that's what these monster houses represent. They're kind of like little gated communities within a community. And you get enough of them in a row, trust me, they become a community within a community where you don't belong. You are out in the streets running away from being targeted by the very people that have nothing better to do, people, and make money off of it. Okay? If Sierra was in a snuff movie, if Sierra was in a snuff movie, and let me tell you something, the cops have given me no reason not to think that she wasn't, because I think she was, just by the way they were fucking carrying on with themselves in that coroner and those body dude guys. Until they can show me that they weren't, there was nothing in there suspicious to suggest that it was a fucking piggy palace, a really fucking cop piggy palace, not Picton, but a piggy, like as in a dirty fucking cop pig, that kind of pig palace. Because I'm starting to think they got their own little piggy palaces going on out here through their little purge network as the politicians are fucking reaping massive amounts of dollars on the organs that they're illegally harvesting on the poorest of the poor as they build all these fucking complexes and houses and everything else to bring an upper elite of upper elite middle class immigrant population to make sure that their pensions are paid for when their time runs out at the fucking legislative houses of assemblies. Because even if they get voted out, the majority of them will still get the pensions. But you see, not enough money comes in terms of taxes from a waitress. No. That's not the kind of money they want. They want the money, the good money, the big money, dig deep into the pocket money from fucking India. Because India is burning up, people. China just wants to take over everything, right? A lot of backroom deals out here with frickin' China, starting in with these old folks' homes, right? So they sold off, they privatized healthcare old folks' homes, right? Half and half, 50-50, whatever it is, whatever the ratio is. And now that they're having all these outbreaks because the Chinese wanted to save money, right? You know, didn't bring in enough workers, didn't bring in enough experience, didn't bring workers in that actually cared. Whatever's happening, they're backpedaling on it now, people. And they've got the whole fucking country, well, province, countries on lockdown because it's all one political agenda. As they're playing their computer games, targeting through the healthcare system, through your justice systems, through your welfare systems, through your tax systems, right? Whatever systems they can hook you up to through your fucking internet system, through your appliances, if you've got smart appliances, right? So, all these people that are wandering the streets are dead ducks. It's just a matter of time before one's picked off here, another one's picked off there, and because this fucking medical doctor, immunization representative, right, health something, doesn't talk about that, those people are less than a statistic. Okay, people, I'm going to put this first and then everything else after. I was going on about how millions of lives have been destroyed. Okay? On the whims of a playbook that was implemented by foreigners. Foreigners where some of their countries are burning up, people, because of the gluttony around building wealth. Anyway, I'm going to have to just refrain from worrying about showing you what I'm doing in a day for a few days, because I got to get into this yard hardcore, and currently it's like hot, people. It's there's been no rain, right? I don't even know if there's snow on the mountains, honestly. And it's muggy right now. Now, mind you, I've been canning for a couple of days and, cooking, what is it called? Turkey broth, and I've got my oven on 225, and so I've put a lot of moisture into the air, right? Just with that in itself, but even outside, hold on a minute. My family is so broken, people. Like, we miss ShaMay. We miss Sierra, right? Obviously, we miss Uncle John. That will never go away. Ever will it ever go away. Anyway, I'm going to put this first, then everything that I've been doing, and I have to clear out my computer again. Right? And if I'm working in the yard, people, I get, that's physical labor. I get really tired, so I don't know. But I got to transfer files. And this computer is making a lot of noise now. So I have to transfer files. And that will take a day or two or three. I can do that all day long. Doing videos takes up a lot of hard disk space. I've said that before. And, I'm going to focus on the yard. The yard. But you know what, people? I'm out there right now with my family. And this is the point of me coming back in and saying what I want to say. Like, my little grandkids are in a complete bubble. My government has put my grandchildren so at risk to live in a bubble. It's like one of those oxygen lung tank things. All right, you have to be in the oxygen tank and not be in the real world. That's the kind of bubble that they've built for my grandkids. And I've been scared for my grandkids for a while now, just with the shady shit that goes on in terms of the public union sector using tax dollars to commit heinous crimes against the public. Okay? And that's what they're doing right now. They're shifting funds from over here to over here, but they're always making sure that those pension plans and those disability pension packages and their wages and their dental this and their medical that and their perk this and their expense that is being paid for. Right? So I think some of what's happening right now, obviously I can't prove it because I'm not an accountant. I'm not doing an audit on the government books, but I think that's what's happening. I think they're downsizing in some ways, like those 30,000 elective surgeries. They saved themselves a lot of money to take that money and put it someplace else, people. And it wasn't all on freaking masks, okay? They didn't take all that money and buy masks with that money. They did something else with that money. And that's just one little section, okay? I don't even think these people know what they're doing. The BC Liberal government was always changing the rules. They'd come in with one rule to catch up to what was going on, and then they'd flip it, and they'd bring in another rule. Well, it seems, and they were making rules on the fly. They were breaking rules in terms of laws, right? Straight up fucking cut me off of welfare with 5 dependent kids 9 months before the legislation even came into effect. And I don't know if I've mentioned this to you before, but I didn't even fall under that legislation, people. The worst that they could have done to me at that time, back in 2003, was deduct $100 off my welfare check. Not just completely cut me off, but that's what they did before the legislation even came into effect that wasn't even applicable to me. That's what the BC Liberal government was doing in partnership with fucking New York, with the mayor of New York at that time. If I could take you into their Legislative House of Assembly debates, right, you would see that a lot of the politics that the BC Liberal government brought into this province came directly from fucking New York. Well, it's the same shit right now. You've got I think he's a governor. He's not the mayor. He's the governor, right? Speaking out on YouTube every day, right? Overinflating the fucking numbers, not coming in with no real fact checks, people. Okay? They're fudging the numbers, people. They fudged the numbers with ShaMay, people. They are fudging the numbers with Sierra, people. If they're fudging the numbers with ShaMay and Sierra and Uncle John, they fudged the numbers with Uncle John. They're fudging the numbers with a whole lot of other people. Right? Because you're dealing with criminal fucking... It only takes 3 to form a criminal organization. And we've got more than 3 running rampant. And they've created a sickly bubble for my grandkids to live in for the rest of their lives. As you're being preyed upon by predators in your community, as they take, harass, target, fucking stalk, right? Until you're beaten down, right? Because you don't have $10 million sitting in a bank account up in fucking China or India or fucking Fiji or freaking Iran or Israel or the United Emirates. Okay. Because that's what the government's importing to fill up these houses that they're building out here with, as they're laundering money. Just like they laundered the healthcare system money with those 30,000 elective surgeries and canceled them, just like that. They laundered that money into something else, and it wasn't all masks. As they're destroying millions and millions of lives as they do it. And of course, the rich fucks ain't gonna say shit because they're sitting high and mighty in their fucking houses, insulated in their own damn bubbles, because that's how they like to live their lives, people. the more wealth they can accumulate for themselves, the more important they seem to think that they are. Right? So they're going to try and get that wealth by any means necessary. And fudging the numbers is one of those methods. Right? Running fentanyl and other drugs through the streets is one of those methods. Targeting vulnerable families for their organs is another method. Selling organs on the black market for fucking pet food. Somebody said, oh yeah, maybe it'd be a good source of pet food. You know what? People are so corrupt, I wouldn't doubt it. Pet food, science experiments, hook them up to their little machines and, do this and do that with them, fucking spirit cooking, right, with the devil worshippers. And then you've got the fucking, the students in the universities. And then, of course, for the good organs, you can transplant them, right? And then, of course, anything surplus can be shipped off to freaking China and then put into the food chain. Anything is possible when you live in a fucking bubble as millions of lives are being destroyed around you as nobody goes to jail. As nobody goes to jail. And you can't even take it to court. What kind of future do my grandkids have with Dr. Bonnie Henry and her cohorts of fucking assholes that have taken this province and pretty much rammed it into hell? Because it was already at the fucking gate of hell. Now we are going into hell, people. And that's how I feel about it. Anyway, I can't get all stressed out about it. I have to get in the yard for a few days. I'll show you after I'm done working in the yard for a few days, assuming I don't get fucking targeted and attacked and who knows. Because as soon as I go out in the yard, I just feel like I want to puke, basically. Okay, because of this fucking gang stalking that can just carries on all the time. I'm doing something. Thank you. Right? Like I said, last time I was out in my yard, I don't enjoy it. I'm waiting for the next attack from the city. I'm having panic attacks the minute I open my fucking door. So anyway, trying not to have panic attacks. I don't know why my gas bill is so high. There's something wrong with my furnace. I just paid a gas bill. Unless gas has gone up. Which I wouldn't be surprised. I'm looking at a $100 gas bill here. And I just paid like $3.50. But my furnace isn't working. It's running. There's something wrong with it. So I have to get my landlady to look at it. Right. So anyway, I'm ill that my grandkids live in a bubble. I'm afraid to go out in public. I'm afraid to go out in public and see what I might find. I hear what I might find. Right? But I'm afraid to go out and fucking face people these days because I was already facing bigotry, racism, prejudice, ostracization, right? Right? Manufactured poverty. I was already facing manufactured poverty as the wealth around me just comes from nowhere. As my family dies. Well, the New Democrat Party has just sped up that process. That's what they've done. They've made it where my family will continue to die, will have no means to get out of manufactured poverty because they're the ones who are really manufacturing it now by bringing millions more into that fray of, I don't want to call it socialism. It's beyond socialism because it's not anywhere you want to be, people, when it's manufactured poverty. Okay, so what? May 10th, 2020, and this is what we start with. Do you see? Okay, so there's that turkey. I've already started to cut it up. It was still a little tad bit frozen on the inside, so I'm really happy with that. I'm just trying to show you what you can do with frozen food to freeze up your freezer, right? Okay, and to also have added food stored away for another day. Now, those pork chops that I bought just the other day and I vacuum sealed them, you know what? The next time I go off and I buy them, because I plan on buying them again, assuming that they're still there, I might just can 12 jars, simply because the meat itself was really, really good. Okay, so that's it. Here's the white meat. Here's the dark meat. Now, I like to put that in with my meats because it gives it flavor, people, okay? So I took out the majority of the fat, you can see. I'm going to render this like I did with the chicken because Andre's been eating it each and every time with his salads, and he really likes it, and so do I. With the fat this time, though, instead of keeping it in the fridge, I'm going to freeze it because I'm still using the other one. This I'm going to cook later. I'm going to show you how after this is done. Because Andre wants to have turkey. So, you know, I'm going to do something with that. And as you can see, I have the organs here, right, in terms of the liver, the heart. I took off the little bit off the gizzard, right? Amari really likes liver, so I'll give him a lot of this liver. I like the liver. And then here's the carcass. So what I'm going to do with the carcass, for the most part, is I am going to stew it and make broth. And then after the broth, I'm going to do two things. Because Andre has been eating that soup. Now, mind you, I still have some in jars here, you can see, from the chicken that I just did. But I don't really want to can turkey soup, per se. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a big pot of stock. I said it backwards. And then I'm going to can myself a few jars of just straight up broth. And then the little bit of leftover, I'll make a little turkey soup. Maybe rice turkey or something. But I'm not making a big pot and then doing this. This time I'd rather have maybe 3 jars of just straight up turkey broth and nothing but turkey broth, and then a small little bit of soup for the next couple of days, right? Because I got to get out in the garden, people, and plant beans. My beans are growing, so they're ready. Some of them are ready to go into the ground. I'm sure they'll do fine, more than likely. And then I'm going to start another batch of beans because we've got next door a little bit, right? So, you know, I'm going to try and, because one, I want to plant, I want to can beans this year. I like canned beans in this size, okay? So definitely some canned beans in this size. And then, of course, the 1 pint jars, I wouldn't mind a few of those. And then, of course, my landlady loves beans, right? And, you know, if I can enrich that soil over there, it would be nice if we could get a really good batch of beans this year. So this year, that's what I'm going to attempt to do, is a good batch of tomatoes so I can can some tomatoes. And I'll also have extra to give away, right? And the same thing for beans, you know. And then we'll just take it from there and see what happens. Oh, and I've got lots of little squash plants that I can throw all over the place, right? Plus, I want to plant some peas tomorrow. So I only got the 1 day to do this. So I'm ready to go. So now I'm going to fill up my jars. It's really simple. Just fill up your jars. You don't need to add water. I add a little bit of salt. This size, I would do a half a teaspoon for sure anyway. And then I'm going to pressure can it for at least 70 minutes, right? Maybe 75 in my pressure canner. And then I'll let you know how many I get as I fill up the jars. I'm going to start making some broth. I'm just going to put a little bit of onion, a bit of celery in it, and maybe 3 carrots just to give it a tad bit more flavor. And I'm going to just stew that, you know, and then I'm going to render my turkey fat, make more little cracklings or whatever they're called for my dandelion salad. So 8 jars, that's not bad, I would say. It's pretty good. You can see the salt.
Surgical mask.
Okay, so I'm going to still do this in the oven. I put a little bit of water in it this time. So it's on very low. Looks like I missed one. Shoot. So I have to cut that up because it renders better if they're in smaller pieces. Remember? Other than that, I cut them all up into small pieces. Except for maybe one or two. You can see I missed. Okay? Hold on. You see?
My patient. My job isn't to be their friend. And I tell them all the time, my job isn't here to stroke your ego and make you feel good. My job is to get you better. And if you're not going to do what I'm asking you to do, and you think you're going to die on my watch, you're mistaken. I'm discharging you from my practice. You know that I've never, ever had a patient want to leave our clinic, ever. Even the ones that...
Okay. So, first thing I want to say is, this turkey that I canned, people, when I bought it, it was only $15 when I bought it. Okay? And so far, we've got 8 1-pint jars of straight-up turkey meat. Okay, that's pretty good. So at $2 a jar, I've already met my, goal, right? So at $2 a jar, that's what I get for what I had in my freezer. Now, all I did was take all those beautiful bones, and they've been stewing all night. Okay? So now I'm going to take the bones out, put them in there, pick through them later, right? Obviously the cats will get, the raccoons will get. And then I'm going to make a little bit of a soup, or what I'm going to see what I get after I do the bones, because there was a fair amount of meat on those bones. And I didn't cook up the turkey last night that I'm going to do later because I get tired, people, right? So my goal for today, okay, hey. My goal for today, this is my goal, is to finish up with my canning, which I'm going to can just... Remember those jars? Remember I told you those are the ones you want to keep. Okay? I'm going to can at least 4 of these of just straight up turkey broth and nothing else. I didn't put no onion, no nothing. I just... a little bit of salt and some bones and fat. That was it. I may do this size 1 jar. A quart is 25 minutes in a pressure canner. That's fast and easy. So 4 to 5, 6 jars, depending, because I want to have a little bit left over for some soup, right? So we'll see how many jars that fills up after I strain it. I'm going to strain it, and then we're going to pressure can it. Now, I've got the chicken, a full case. The turkey was obviously cheaper than the chicken. We're doing some broth. And then once I'm done this, assuming that I don't go off to the grocery store and go buy some pork and can myself another 12 more jars of this with that pork, being that it's fairly cheap right now, because that's when you want to buy it. Doesn't matter if it's frozen, okay? Because what we ate the other night with the dandelion salad and then the beets, oh, it was so good. And because they're already pre-cut, once you cut them, throw them in a jar, you can them for 70 minutes, in this size, 70, 75 minutes, and you're good to go. So, I may do that in the next 2 or 3 days. Oops, that's my gong. That's my gong. That's my gong. Why did my gong fell down? I normally have that in here. That's my gong. Anyway, that's what I'm going to do. And then, of course, I'm back outside. Right, I really need to get outside, but I also need to do this. So, this first, and then I'll probably get outside for a little while. Anyway, I'm having to dig up, right? I've got beans now. I'll take you into the X Club later, and you'll see them. They're like this big already. Right? And now they're ready to go in the ground, and I want to start another batch because I've got next door. So I want to do, I have bushed beans, but I didn't really have no place. In my yard, I like to grow pole beans because there's only so much space where I can actually grow food, right? Because I grow trees and I have ornamental walkways and that type of stuff, right? And then, what do you call it? But I want it, I have bush beans. So I'm going to try and run 1 or 2 rows like actual rows of bush beans next door, but it's just better to start the beans in their own individual pots in a little greenhouse type setting, because then they have a chance to grow without being eaten in the germinating stage. If you put them into the ground, I find that not that many survive because, you know, whatever's in the ground eats them. Whereas if you put them in already that big or whatever, you're good to go. So that's my goal, is to try and get some beans in the ground today. Tisha's going to help. She wants to learn how to garden, right? But before I do that, I have to do this, and then we'll see what happens with the pork after the fact when I want to go for a walk. Okay? So I'll be back. I just want to show you how good this looks, even on a poor woman's budget. I'm going to make some soup. This one I'm not going to pick apart. All right, do you see this? Oh, I love sucking on that stuff. That is so good. Look at this. Oh, this is so good. So I'm going to leave a few pieces out, and then I'm going to make myself a bit of soup. Potato soup. Turkey potato soup. That's what I'm going to do. And then, yeah, look at that. That's part of a neck, eh? Okay, so we're getting at to be about $1.50 a jar here, because if you notice, that's 2 more jars right there, people. Right? Okay, now you can put it in the fridge and, you know, let it get cold and let the grease all come to the surface, and you can scrape it off, and you can straight up, what is it called? Turkey broth without the fat on it, right? Because when you can, things with fat will tend to crawl up. They say it can pop the jar. Maybe so, maybe not. Out of all the time I've done meat, I've only jars that I've had pop on me, people, is corned beef. And that's only been like 2 jars or something. Did it have something to do with the fat? Quite possibly, right? But 2 jars out of the one batch, maybe it had something to do with, I don't know. All I know is that this is the way I do it. And even if the fat gets up in here a little bit, you know, chances of it popping are pretty low. The darker, the cooler the place you store these types of things, these ones, the better. If I was to take these, put them way in the back, right, in my cupboard against the wall where it's a little cooler, normally they sit forever, or in, you know, someplace on the ground, preferably closer to the northern wall, away from heating vents, you'll do good. So right now I'm looking at $1.50 per jar, and this is technically 500 milliliters, right? So this would be like, you know, 1, 2, 3 cans if you were to buy it in a store. I don't know what they sell canned turkey for. All I know is mine's $1.50 a jar. At this point, that was with a $15 turkey. Go buy the same turkey today, you're probably looking at $30. So if you can find turkeys on sale, pick up a couple extra if you have the room. Throw them into your deep freeze. Don't panic. This is what you can do. As an alternative food storage safety measure when crazy things happen in the world like they're happening right now. I kind of want to write something in a generic sense, you know, because I'm thinking about all these people that had employment and don't have it now, that, you know, worked in the bars and worked in restaurants and all those things, right? You know, and they don't have no jobs, no perspective of jobs, right? You know, they're being targeted. Right? They're being targeted. Let's face it, people. Poor people always get targeted, right? Not to say that bartenders and waitresses were poor people, because they weren't, right? But I'm sure some of them at this stage of the game are starting to be targeted because, you know, they're maybe getting behind on their rent, or they didn't pay this bill, or maybe the cupboards are getting bare, right? So I'm thinking, since I kind of know how to write, I'm not going to brag. But maybe I should write a generic, I don't know what to say. I don't know how to say it. But something that people can use for their means to fight for themselves, right? Namely in a court of law, where they would put forward the petition in a mini form to get back their rights to be able to participate in gainful employment activities, or just being able to walk into a store without having to stand in line for 2 hours to get inside, right? As you have extremists hunting you down. Okay, so this broth, I'm telling you, is very, very, very tasty. So I'm just doing 4 jars. Now I have 1 more of these turkeys in my freezer. I might even have 2. And I'm going to do another one next week, people. Because when you look at the cost per meal, we're looking at $1.50 so far, just with those and that little bit that I have in the bowl. And then you can factor in, right, 4 more meals as a supplement, and we still have this, right? I mean, like, economically, it's worth it. It's so worth it to do it this way. And the thing about it is it stays forever, right, for the most part. I've shown you what to do. Go into my videos if you want to try and catch a jar if it pops, right? Not very often do they pop, once in a blue moon. But you know what? You can buy a pop jar in a grocery store. So don't let that stop you from building in food security for your family, because what we've got running the show right now in terms of these politicians, just remember, finger tight. Alright, nothing more than finger tight. And then I did about 1 inch or so, a little more than 1 inch, because of the grease, right? In terms of headspace there. But yeah, no, I don't know. I'm thinking maybe I should try and write something so people can use it as a template. Remember, don't take a hot jar and put it into cold water. Heat up your water first, then put your hot jar in. Okay? And this is only 25 minutes, because I would think it's a little bigger than a pint, right? Not quite a quart and not quite a pint. So, you know, this is good. Oh, I'm so glad I did this. And I think I'm going to do it to the next one too. Because this, for like, in, you know, building in food security at this point in life, this is the best way to do it. Right? So, there you go. See how fast that was? That's pretty easy peasy stuff. Now you turn it up, you vent it for 10 minutes, then you put on your thing. I'm just using the old school one here. No gauge, nothing, it works fine. Right? And then, there we go. And then you vent for 10 minutes, right? Let the steam vent, turn on your timer, shh, then put that on, and when it starts, that's when you start timing your 25 minutes. You can turn down your stove just a little bit, not fast, go slow, right? Because keep the pressure in there. Yeah. Now, I have to get my brain ready. Hi-ho, hi-ho. Up to the garden we go. Okay, here's the first, people. This stuff is like boiling away in here. As it's boiling, it's releasing air. Did you see what happened? Wow. I've never seen that before. Maybe I should have left them just a little longer in the canner. Everything's settled down now. So there you go. Look at that. Primo stuff. Oh my. And then we've got this going in the oven. Right. 225. I put that turkey juice in there. Do you hear these jars popping as it's releasing air? Popping and unpopping. Look, you can see it moving around, swirling in there. Alright, this is why you don't want to screw your caps on extremely tight, because if the air couldn't have released, as what it's doing right now, you can see it swirling. Here, I'm going to move back because the jar shouldn't break, right? Because the air can release. But if you didn't just have it fingered tight, all that air that's trying to get out would have cracked the jar by now. That's what's happening. So as it cools, eventually it's just going to seal. And right? You can see it's boiling in there. That's what's happening. And as it comes, and it pops, see, you can see it moving around. It's swirling. Right? That's what's happening. So maybe I should have left it in my canner for a few minutes. I think that's what happened. Right? You can see it moving. It's swimming. See? Oops. You'll see it go right by. See? And if the air needs to release, it will release. Right? That's what that was going on. Okay, as you can see, we've got some beans ready to go. Right, here's some more. We've got some more coming up down there. I don't know, it looks like maybe little cucumbers or something like that. Right, these are tomatoes. And those are squash coming up. Everybody needs water. So these ones are little cucumbers coming up. Not very well, but some of them are. So I'm just going to give everybody some water, but these are the ones that are going in the ground right now. Right? They should be okay. Right? If I put them in the ground now. Yeah. And then we're going to start some bush beans inside. And leave these other ones to grow just yet. For a little while longer. You can see what's going on in here. This year I kind of want to clear out some of this stuff. There's a little tree. I want to open it up for little ShaMay. I have drums over there. So instead of having all this, I'll take out these this year. Not right now, but this year. I'll take everything out. And then I'll bring out the little drum set right up in here where little ShaMay can play. And I've got little microscopes, so we're going to turn it back into the X Club / painting room versus being a little greenhouse, right? But we're going to just use it like this for now, as is. And so that's the plan for that. Fix this shelf in here. So we'll see. I'm having problems with my furnace, so I don't know. I don't know if my landlady is going to end up doing these gutters. She said she was this year, and this, right? But I don't know. One day at a time. So hold on. See that building going up? That's where the walnut trees were. Going up pretty fast, eh? Hold on, I want to talk about that.